All right, it is a lovely morning, Big Canoe. Take it away, Bob.
Thank you, Justin. Good morning, Big Canoe. Welcome to the town hall meeting, the topic of which is the capital contribution fee, or as I will refer to it as the CCF. Today on the agenda, I will be giving the introduction. After the introduction, Hal Bish will talk on the Long Range Planning Committee's role. Amy Tropfenbaum will talk about the financial aspects of the fee. And last, but certainly not least, Phil Baldwin is going to present on the real estate situation in Big Canoe, the very positive situation today. If we go to the next slide, please. And those are the speakers. There's a great deal of information you'll hear from them. In addition to that, there's a website, bigcanoeccf.org, which has additional information, question and answers, and links to this presentation and articles that have been written. And the next slide, please. The proposal that you'll be voting on was led by a work group headed by Candace Robertson on the POA board. You'll see there were representatives from some of the key advisory committees that the POA relies on for background information: the Long Range Planning Committee, Audit and Risk Committee, and the Finance Committee. There's a representative of the real estate community and a leadership Big Canoe alumnus. Next foil, please. The upcoming vote on the capital contribution fee is vital to the future of Big Canoe. This is an opportunity to balance funding for capital projects by providing a revenue stream from new owners to augment assessments from current owners. The proposal is for a CCF to be paid by new owners who purchase or build a home. It will be set at $2,500 with provisions to reduce, increase, or suspend it. It does not include lots, and there are exclusions for current property owners, inheritance, donations, and others. Next slide, please. Why would some owners consider voting against something that seems like it is eminently fair? Some of the objections I've heard over the years is some see this as an opportunity for the board to create a slush fund for their pet projects. If that were the goal, the board could easily vote to raise assessments that would provide significantly more funds with significantly less effort. The 2021 budget is in the review stage and will be voted on at the November board meeting. In spite of increased health insurance costs and investments in public safety, communications, and project management, there is no proposed increase in assessments, partly in anticipation of the CCF passing. The CCF will provide additional funds. It will provide additional funds, but in a fair way to share in capital costs. Others may believe that the flat fee will make Big Canoe properties uncompetitive and that the seller will end up having to pay it. Big Canoe is a desirable community to live in, as demonstrated by the very low number of homes for sale, currently at 29 and counting down. The fee is common among gated communities and brings Big Canoe in line with the norm. A very prominent and respected real estate agent states, quote, "The fee is not excessive, especially when you consider how common these kinds of fees are in other private communities. There are buyers and sellers who would be willing to absorb a fee. The CCF protects their investment. In today's market, buyers are eager to enjoy the benefits of Big Canoe. Some may feel that a percentage of the sales price is a better plan than a flat fee. There are pros and cons for each. A percentage fee would open us up to a legal challenge in Georgia. In 2008, when I was on the board, a CCF-like amendment based on a percentage fee was proposed. A survey of property owners found that 81% favored funding a capital reserve, but disagreed with details of the proposal, including that it was based on a percentage of the sales price. A leading opponent of the 2008 vote now states regarding the current proposal, quote, "I applaud our current POA board and the CCF proposal and hold the position that the CCF should be approved by the property owners post haste without any reservation. Frankly, such a fee is long overdue. For a community such as ours, not having this manner of funding is financially foolhardy." To illustrate the benefits of a CCF, we can look at what would have been if the 2008 vote had passed. If it had passed, the following capital projects would have been funded by revenue from the CCF without using assessments: the new firehouse, the pickleball courts, a typical year of road maintenance, the Creek 9 rejuvenation. In addition, the 2020 clubhouse kitchen improvements, 2 new pontoon boats, the Clay Tech tennis court conversion, and a new fire engine. The fee would have funded all of these without using assessments and would also have created a reserve that could be used to fund future projects. These projects demonstrate an investment in Big Canoe, which are now or soon will be available to new owners. It seems eminently fair for them to assist in paying for future enhancements. More than $7 million in capital projects would have been funded with no assessment dollars spent. These assessments could have been used for other projects or could not have been levied. There is little doubt that these projects were needed and beneficial to current and new owners. They improve property values, make Big Canoe attractive to prospective buyers, and show a commitment to Big Canoe's bright future. It's important to note that the vote is not a vote for any project, but how to fairly fund that project. The existence of a CCF makes Big Canoe competitive as it reduces pressure on raising assessments and demonstrates financial responsibility with the reserve funds. There are numerous upcoming projects that require funding in the near future, such as renovating the chimneys, additional parking for the marina, and a new postal facility. We have an opportunity to make what if of 2008 a reality in 2020 going forward by passing the CCF. It's likely that everyone would change a detail to achieve their perfect CCF, but this is the best overall model to attain an equitable solution. What you're voting on is the best consensus of a property owner work group that has studied alternatives for many months and learned from what did and did not work with previous CCF proposals. I've heard property owners say that they favor the CCF but will not vote for it as there is one detail they disagree with. However you feel, the real question is, do we want a revenue stream from those coming to enjoy the benefits of Big Canoe? This revenue stream will supplement property owner assessments to fund capital projects. We recently had a vote that demonstrated that property owners want to properly maintain Big Canoe. Now we have the opportunity to change the model for funding future capital projects, a model that is a standard in many private communities in the Southeast. Please consider carefully the question of fairly balancing responsibilities for funding future capital projects. Is whatever specific issue you may have more important than the overarching goal of creating a fair alternative revenue stream? Should assessments pay for everything, or do we adopt a model for the 21st century? The upcoming vote is critical for the future of Big Canoe. From here, we will go on. I'll introduce Hal Bish, and Hal is the chair of the Long Range Planning Committee, and he will speak of the role of the committee, the history of the committee, and the role in prioritizing future projects. Hal, it's all yours.
Thanks a lot, Bob, and good morning, everyone. I'll add a little bit of context to the CCF from the Long Range Planning Committee's perspective. Most of the amenities and facilities in Big Canoe were built in the 70s or 80s, and with the exception of a few updates in the 90s, nearly everything we have today is 30 years old or older. In 2005, the developer turned the governance of Big Canoe's amenities over to the POA. And this drove the formation of the first Long Range Planning Committee in 2006, Long Range Master Plan Committee in 2006. It was an ad hoc committee at first. It would meet every 3 to 5 years, then it would adjourn, and then would meet again several years later. In 2014, that committee generated the first long-range master plan, and that document is still a foundational document that we use today in the Long-Range Planning Committee. 2016, Big Canoe POA purchased the remainder of the property that was owned by the developer within the gates. A task force was appointed, and the task force, land use task force, generated a report that had a fairly significant effect on our master plans since it added assets. And that document also became part of the considerations that Long Range Planning Committee uses in terms of planning for the future. In 2017, the Long Range Planning Committee became a standing committee. We meet on a monthly basis, and in 2017 and 2018, we added recommendations to that 2014 Long Range Master Plan and to the 2016 Land Use Task Force report. In 2018 and 2019, the Chambers was brought in to do a master plan, a holistic master plan for all of Big Canoe. And this document also became part of the foundational documents that the Long Range Planning Committee uses. Currently, the Long Range Planning Committee uses the previous documents that I'd mentioned. We take input from the board, Big Canoe management, Bobby Jones Links, and most importantly, we take input from the amenity and facility stakeholders and staff to formulate recommendations to the board for master plan projects. The previous board asked the Long Range Planning Committee to distill our recommendations down to a top 5 or 6 projects, and we did so. The current board has expanded this and asked for project priorities, a list of project priorities beginning in 2021 and going out 7 to 10 years. This constitutes the current priority list. It's a living document. It reflects priorities out 7 to 10 years. It's subject to change as need be. As projects are completed and roll off the list, new projects are added. Of the current items on this list, all but one are to repair or renovate current facilities. And of the one item that is for new construction, it's to replace an existing structure. So everything on the priority list is to either repair, renovate, or replace existing facilities. There is nothing new on this list. At some point, all of these projects should be done if we're going to maintain quality of life and property values that we enjoy in Big Canoe. And this problem isn't new. We've been discussing the problem for the last 5, 6 years since I've been here. But more to the point, the problem itself didn't begin with this board or the previous board or the board beyond that. It's been developing for years and in some cases decades. The cost if we're going to maintain our property is going to be, in round numbers, rough order of magnitude, $15.7 million over the next 7 to 10 years. So the concern today is how to equitably pay for these projects over time. Thanks a lot, and Bob, I'll give it back to you.
Hal, thank you very much for your presentation today and your perspective. And more importantly, thank you for the work that you have done as chair of the committee, and your committee has the important role of advisory to the board. It's very important. Thank you. Next, I'll ask Amy Tropfenbaum, who is the chair of the finance committee, to speak about the financial implications of the CCF. Amy, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Get the slide up. So why now? The Finance Committee has been discussing this type of fee for over 3 years, and it was finally introduced at the October 2018 board meeting, supported by several Inside the Gate articles, a town hall, and 6 other board or work sessions throughout 19 and 20. We've all concluded the CCF is the best way to fund capital expenditures without raising assessments or taking on new debt. We saw this as a common component of funding at other private communities, where it's often coupled with capital assessments within their monthly bill, like we have, and a percentage of profits at the end of the year, like we have with our surplus operating cash. While we have a very strong balance sheet, including almost $3 million in restricted reserves, the ability to fund about $3 million in routine capital every year, plus adequate monthly operating expenses on hand, we aren't sitting on piles of extra cash to tear down and replace our old buildings and infrastructure. We need these additional funds to expedite the master plan projects to keep us up to date for existing property owner pleasure and safety, as well as appeal to today's buyers. The CCF would augment the board designated master plan fund that was created late 2019 by raising assessments $25 per month as a capital earmark. If it's passed, it would be expected to raise about $500,000 a year. And had one been in place since the beginning of this year, it would have already generated more than $750,000. As with all major capital expenditures made by the POA, projects with a price tag of more than $1 million adjusted must be voted on by the property owners. So everyone would like to understand who's going to be exempt. The exact language is being finalized now, but this is the overall idea of how things would go. The basic principle is anyone already owning property here will be grandfathered. So among the exemptions, existing property owners as of January 15th, when they move within Big Canoe, they do not pay. Purchasers after January 15th, 21 will pay, but if they later move within Big Canoe, they too are exempt. To give everyone time to get things in order at first, if you are under contract by January 15th, you will also be excluded on that house. Very important, all lot sales are exempt. And some of the miscellaneous exemptions are homes obtained by inheritance, gift, or trust. And the same for the sale of your home to your spouse, a co-owner, child, grandchild, sibling, or parent.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it. The last speaker today, before we go into questions and the answers, is Phil Baldwin, who will talk about the red hot real estate market in Big Canoe. Phil, it's all yours.
Thanks, Bob. You know, as Bob mentioned a minute ago, we have 29 listings in all of Big Canoe out of approximately 2,800 homes. A good rule of thumb for Big Canoe, I've been here 8 years, has been about 10% of the market turns over per year. So about 280 to 300 homes typically will sell and transact in a year. 29 homes is really low. We got down as low as 25 homes a few weeks ago. Homes are selling very quickly, typically within days if they're priced properly and in really nice condition and good locations. The homes that are sitting for a while are a bit more tired. They've not been maintained properly and upgraded, and they're a bit dated, as we call it. So they need some love. But homes continue to sell quickly. I've got a family that listed their home for sale 2 years ago in the 425 range. It didn't sell within 6 months. They took it off the market and just put it back on the market. The home sold in 5 days for $565,000. So a significant change in the market values to homes in our area. A lot of people from the metro Atlanta area are coming to Big Canoe to get out of what we call the rat race. Anything north of 285 is also experiencing tremendous gains. Have a family coming tomorrow from the Vinings area with 3 9-year-old triplets who are looking at lots to build or to buy an existing home. So we're seeing a lot more children. We're seeing a growth. I have about 10 families on a daily drip to where they can see any new listing that comes available. And I tell them, if you see something you like, call right away because we need to jump on it. It won't be available more than a few days. And that has been the plan. Currently, homes are priced in Big Canoe from $279,900 up to the highest one at $1,499,000. So all price ranges. The average home price in Big Canoe is around $450,000 if you take everything into account. Again, homes with the tree toppers, Buckskull Hollow, Laurel Ridge, condos in the low hundreds up to 200 possibly. And then you see the homes all the way up to $3-4 million. So home prices have increased. We're up 15-20% over prior years. Construction cost continues to rise. It's risen in the last year from $150 a square foot up to around $175 per foot, just with the cost of building materials. Lot prices continue to hold. We've got lots, currently there are 125 lots listed for sale in Big Canoe. And as we're running low on homes, more and more people are now looking at building, and the builders are very busy. As you know from your own experience, it's hard to get a contractor now to do small projects because they're also busy building new homes. But this is a great program. It's a good way, and people, when they come and visit with us at the real estate office, think about coming to Big Canoe, they're really surprised when there's not some kind of an initiation fee or an entry fee. When I was in the banking business and real estate in Atlanta, you join a club, you join a golf course, you're expecting some kind of an initiation fee, and it's very common. And when I take them through our beautiful clubhouse and show them that great facility and the golf course and the beauty of standing there looking out over the lake, they're really surprised that there's not an initiation fee. The current fee is only $425 to the POA to set up a POA account, and then $200 to the water department. So for $625, you're in Big Canoe. This will not be a difficult fee to collect. Most people, again, are very surprised they don't have some initiation fee. And in real estate, all things are negotiable. So I see this as a win-win, a chance for us to continue to build our reserves, to upgrade facilities, and to make this place as beautiful as it can be. It's a very special place. We're proud of it. And I take a lot of pride in showing people our little heaven on earth. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Phil, for a wonderful story. We will now go to question and answers. Before we go to live question and answers, I want to say that we have been getting questions and answering those questions for some period of time now. Many of those, as I said, are available on the bigcanoeccf.org website. We've selected some of them that are representative of what we feel might be common questions that need to be answered, so we can start with those while we're waiting for live questions to come in. So Justin, have you got the first one?
We currently don't have any questions so far live, but we can go ahead and queue up the existing questions.
Okay, thank you. Georgia is asking, how do I vote regarding this topic? And My strong recommendation is that you vote yes. And how you vote, you will be receiving a ballot the first week in December. And you will be voting on that ballot starting in early December and ending just after Christmas. Okay, Brian's asking the question of why are we not considering a percentage of the sales price lot, say 0.7%? I hope I answered that adequately in my presentation, but some of the reasons are it had been rejected in the past. It had been studied. It obviously is a thoughtful option. There's pros and cons to flat fee and percentage. One of the very key things is a ruling, an opinion from our attorney that we would be open to legal questions of treating people disproportionately if we did that, and highly recommend that we do not. Okay, is there a third one, Justin? Julie's asking, didn't we already vote on the capital contribution fund? Just received an email. I thought we already voted on this. What was the outcome of the previous vote? There was, as I mentioned, not recently, but 2008, there was an actual vote on something that was similar called a capital initiation fee. Recently, the only other vote that you have had was on the rejuvenation of the Creek 9, and you are currently voting on directors, but there has not been a recent vote on this. In 2019, there was a very similar proposal that had some errors in it, and it was recalled, but that was back in late 2019.
Bob, let me add to that too. In the
Sure.
prior vote that didn't go properly back in 05, 06 period, we were in a very different real estate market. Homes were selling for, it might take a year or two to sell a home back then, and prices were very flat. In today's market, as home prices have risen, values are up, and homes are selling very quickly. So it's a very positive time to install this fund.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate that input. Can the fee be increased? Yes, the fee can be increased. There's a provision in the amendment that it is initially set at $2,500. It can be increased up to $500 a fiscal year, up to a maximum of $5,000. It can also be decreased or suspended, all of which will be based on the board's view of market conditions at the time. Phil, do you want to add anything to that, or?
No, not really. I mean, certainly the board would not have the appetite to do increases that weren't necessary. We would only increase fees as we need to based on the budget and based on needed repairs and additions to the community. We want to keep our facilities as nice and as pristine as possible to have that very nice image that we enjoy today. And some buildings have recently had some nice uplifting facelifts with paint, pine straw, and landscaping, and there are more to do.
Okay, thanks, Phil. And we have one here. Amy, do you want to answer this question from Cheryl?
The question was, we currently have our lot up for sale. Would new owners have to pay the $2,500 at closing, or only when they build? And if we decide not to sell it and we build, will we be charged? The answer to the first one is all lot sales are exempt. However, new owners, when they do ultimately build, would be due the $2,500. In the spirit of grandfathering existing property owners, if you decide not to sell and ultimately build, you will not be charged the $2,500.
Okay, thank you, Amy. And the next question is from Neil. If you have started construction in 2020 with completion in 2021, does the 2,500 need to be paid. Amy, do you want to try this one also?
Yeah, this is just a variation of the previous question. What this implies is that the person that owned the lot that started construction is already a property owner, obviously. Therefore, he's grandfathered in when he finishes construction and would not need to pay the 2,500.
Okay, thank you. Miller, we have owned property in Big Canoe for over 20 years and seen some very low annual sales. What about the years where home sales were very low? How will this affect the goal of the CCF? Good question, Miller. You are absolutely correct. Look at sales from the year after we proposed the CCF in 2008. So from 2009 to 2020, and they vary from 109 to 300. We're estimating now roughly 200 homes a year. I think that's a very conservative estimate, but what's important is this is a fund that is going to be built up for future projects. If you look at 2021, the major expenditure, capital expenditure, is going to be the rejuvenation of the Creek 9 golf course. That is funded now in our board designated master plan fund that has been funded by various ways, but is being added to $25 a month for each homeowner. So we will always have, we do have now, and probably will continue to have, that $25 fund as a known amount building up the fund, and then unknown is exactly what is the amount going to be. But as I say, it's not important that we project it. It is important that the more we have, the more opportunity we have to share capital costs with our assessment dollars. But it is not paramount to say that we're gonna do some project in the expectation that the funds will be available in the future. We will do it when those funds are available. And was that the last question, or there are additional, Justin?
We have one question from the live audience.
Okay. And the question is, can any of the fee be used for salaries, benefits, or are funds restricted to improvements? And the answer is very simply, yes, the funds are for capital. They're restricted for improvements, nothing to do with operations, salaries, or benefits. Amy, do you want to add something?
Yeah, let me jump in. There, we have a policy and procedure 105.2 or 3, 105.2, yeah, that defines what board designated capital is. And it is precisely for capital purposes, not expenses.
Okay, Justin, if there are no other questions.
The only other thing is a follow-up from this live question asking, will the funds be allocated in the budget?
Amy, you want to answer that one?
Bob, you talking to me, Bob?
Yeah.
Well, the budget that we are currently working on, that the board will be voting on Thursday, is the operating budget and the routine or replacement capital budget. And these are not, this is not tied to that.
These are master plan items.
These are master plan items.
Okay.
And those would come through long range planning and then submitted to the board for consideration. Things like the post office, the marina, the rehab of the facilities that are needed, those kind of things.
Right, and the finance committee does see that along the way as well through another policy that we have, but it is not the current budget that we're working on.
Correct.
Okay, if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank everybody for their presentation. I'd like to thank the audience for their listening and submitting a question and submitting multiple questions earlier that we could answer. And as I say, more information is available on bigcanoeccf.org. And we look forward to a successful vote and a fair method of sharing capital project costs. So that is it for today. Thanks again.
Y'all.